But we wanted to talk this morning to share the wins, the successes. How are we figuring out these new strategies, tips, and tricks to strike that better work-life balance while we're under quarantine, self-isolation, whatever you want to call it? We're going to a local resident expert. She is a mom. She is an entrepreneur. She is an attorney. And she's a city leader. Tameika Devine, welcome to WIS Today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Judy. I'm excited to be here. I watch you guys every single morning as I'm working from home, so I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are glad to have you here, and I love your shirt. You know, I'm all into the shirts and the theme, and you got that work-life balance going on. So, you know, what we do on this show, first of all, is we just check in. So tell me how the Devine life is going these days.
I have to say, with the way Jamie and I are always so busy, and we love our lives and love our careers, so we like the busyness, but sometimes it's good just to kind of decompress. And I'll tell you that we're doing well because although we still have a lot going on, we're being able to spend a whole lot more time at home. And so we've actually learned some stuff that we actually need to do around the house. So it's been a lot to deal with, but it also has been a blessing as well.
Tameika, can you share with us about your family? How old are your kids, and how has it been balancing work with kids and fun and school?
So my oldest is 14, so she's a freshman, and so she is like really excited that she doesn't have school anymore, so she can take some of a break. And then I have a 9-year-old who's in 4th grade, who is really bummed that there's no more school. And then I have a 3-year-old who keeps me on my toes. So I have 3 kids at 3 different schools, 3 different levels. So it has been a lot trying to school from home.
Tameika, Madeline here. Thank you again for joining us. Happy Friday. We're so glad to have you on. I noticed on your website you posted a blog post that I found really interesting and really inspirational, because I think there are a lot of moms that watch this show and think, how do I get it all done and not feel guilty? And you talked a lot about balancing work. What is your message out there for these moms that feel like, you know, the guilty with the kids and the work and the life and all of it put together?
One of the biggest things that I tell a lot of moms, but parents in general, because, dads have guilt as well in this day and age. But I tell them is that, nothing is permanent. And the most important thing is the time that you can spend with your kids and the experiences that you're creating. And so, we're all human, and we've got to give ourselves grace. That's the biggest thing, is giving yourselves grace. Judy mentioned that every day is different. Some days, I might hit a home run, and some days I'm like, mommy just didn't do it right today, but tomorrow's another day, and I give myself some grace on that, and my kids do as well.
Tameika, let's talk a little bit more about that, because, every day has different challenges. Some days I need to be all in as a mom and everything else has to wait. Some days I need to be all in as a TV anchor, and, some other things have to get put on the back burner. How do you deal, we hear that term mom guilt, but you're right. Dads are stepping up to the plate and dealing with this too. How do you balance those emotions, some strategies to not get overwhelmed?
Well, I definitely think a big thing is managing managing your own expectations, the ones that you have of yourself, and the expectations that others have of you. I mean, yeah, some days I'm all in. I've got to be city leader. Yesterday we had, coronavirus task force meeting. We had a city council meeting. We had a bunch of meetings. So yesterday I wasn't really here as much. Well, I was physically here, but not here mentally. But we talked about that Wednesday night, so they understood that. So we have a lot of conversations about what mom's schedule is, what dad's schedule is, what the expectations are. And we might not be able to do family night on Friday night as usual, but we'll do it on Saturday night. So I think managing those expectations, having those communications with your family and outside people, being able to say no when you can, or not right now, and understanding that that's okay.
Tameika, we have shown some of the pictures of you and your kids doing some activities, whether it be outside or indoors. Let's talk about some of the fun things that you've been able to do. What has been your favorite, and what tips do you have for other parents out there?
I will tell you, Cammie, it's so funny. When we first started kind of this whole schooling from home, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm super mom. I'm going to get this done. I had like a schedule, and I'm like, we're going to do math this time. We're going to do this. It worked for maybe about a week and a half. now that we're down 5, 6 weeks into this thing, that doesn't happen much anymore. And I think a lot of parents are stressing about that. And so what we've started to do, like I said, I have a ninth grader, so her schedule's pretty set. She knows what assignments she has. She has classroom Skype time with her class, and so they can pretty much get it done. My fourth grader and of course my 3-year-old, it's a little bit different. And so I realized that we can't always have real structured school time. But what I've been able to do is figure out how do we get the concepts and the lessons that the school and the teachers want them to have, but how do we do it with just everyday stuff? So we've done a whole lot of cooking, and in cooking you deal with science, you deal with math, home economics, so it's really cool. And so we've been cooking, we've been gardening, we've been bike riding. This week, with it being Earth Day, we did a whole lot outside to teach about the earth and climate change. And so I've been able to use real life experiences to teach them and have fun. And then, like I said, creating experiences, because, your kids, when they grow up, they're going to remember the experiences and the memories of the time you spent together, not necessarily that, they had to do some math on while they were quarantined.
No, that's so true. Tameka, I want to talk a little bit about your career as a city councilwoman here in Columbia, which is absolutely fantastic. How has this been going? What has changed in the Columbia City Council since this pandemic struck? You mentioned the Accelerate SC Task Force yesterday. Give us some insight on how that's been.
It was an adjustment for us. I mean, we're, of course, used to being very present in the community and being out all the time, and social distancing has changed a lot of the way we operate, but we've been able to do it. We've gone from our personal meetings to having Zoom meetings, and so the benefit to that is you have a lot of long-winded public officials who on Zoom meetings are a lot more condensed in what they have to say and share. So I've enjoyed that. Our meetings have been a lot shorter than they usually are. And so we've done the Zoom meetings. I, for one, because I am such a community person and I love being out and about, I have learned how to connect via social media. I've been out, I've done Facebook Lives and YouTube town halls, and been connecting with people that way. And so we've been able to adjust. And unfortunately, I think some of this is going to be more of a new normal than we would like to have thought at the very beginning. But I think it's still the way you're providing the service. And so the city, we hadn't skipped a beat, although we're not open to the public yet. City workers are still working. Your city council members and your mayor is still working. We're probably working harder now than we used to. And so we've just been able to really find a new way to do our job and represent the citizens.
So, Tameka, let me ask you about kind of picking and choosing battles. You were talking a little earlier about saying no to some things. And, sometimes when I'm out talking with different groups, I'm like, there are a whole lot of ways to say no. One way is to say, I wish I could, but I can't, So you have to be able to kind of pick and choose your battles. But I know dealing with social media can be a challenge as well, especially being a city council leader. And, Rick Henry likes to call it keyboard courage. People get on there and it can mess with your mind sometimes. How do you deal with those kind of challenges, especially being a mom, and especially with kids who are old enough, you're one of your daughters at least, to see social media and to be able to know, when to respond, when to hold back?
Wow, I want to say I think I'm still learning that. I'm good at that. I have a good group of folks that I like bounce things off of. And so sometimes I'm like, I'm going to say this. And then I have to step back and like, is it worth it? And I think that's the biggest question is she asks, is it worth it? I mean, a lot of times I'll get stuff and I'll see some of the stuff that people post to you. And then I look what I do. My start thing is now I look at their followers. And then they'll have like 30 followers and they look at how many followers you have. And I'm like, okay, so they're going after Judy because they know once they get something, they're going to get, some more followers. So sometimes it's not even worth it because they don't have the platform that some of us have. But what I do feel like is sometimes when people are purposefully putting out misinformation, disinformation, and trying to hurt others, sometimes it's worth it to go back and respond. But again, going back to expectations, my 14-year-old, we have those real life conversations, especially when she was transitioning to high school. I was like, look, you've got two parents who are in the public eye. Not everybody likes mommy and daddy. Not everybody likes what mommy and daddy are going to do. And we just want you to understand that sometimes you're going to be in a position that you're going to see and hear things that might hurt your feelings, but you need to come and talk to us if that happens. You need to have your real friends around you so that you have folks that you know love and support you for who you are and not for any other reason. And that's sometimes hard to do even as adults, but I think being able to insulate ourselves that way and having those conversations and recognizing that not everybody in the world is pleasant and nice, but usually it's more about them and what's not working right in their lives than about you.
Yeah, Tameka, you are constantly dealing with input from the community, concerns and complaints. Can you share with us some of the feedback you have gotten during this pandemic? What are some of the biggest concerns that you have needed to address?
Wow, Kimmy, I'd say, and still remains, the biggest concern is folks who, even after all this time, are not taking this virus seriously. I mean, at the very beginning, when things really first started happening, I was traveling. I was at the National League of Cities, and so I was at the biggest conference that we have every year of national municipal elected officials, and we were getting real time information from the White House, and I was like, this is going to be scary. And so I cut my trip short and I came back to Columbia, and then we were getting the information from here in DHEC, and I had all these folks, and y'all have talked about it on this show, that putting out the rumors, this is not that bad, more people die from the flu, Black people can't get it, all that kind of stuff. And so being able to arm people with the right information, especially when you've got so many places that people are getting their information from, was difficult. I think now, of course, more people have taken it seriously, but I still get folks, especially now that people want, things to open back up. I get folks like, come on, it's not that serious, it's not that bad. And even just this week when we got the latest numbers from DHEC and they looked at the numbers, and, there are a lower number of people who are projected to pass away from this than originally thought. And so I had some folks saying, oh, okay, that's good. And I'm like, anyone losing their life for this thing is bad. And as much as we can stop the spread, keep people from getting it, arm them with the right information is important. And so I think that's the toughest thing, is because people get information from so many different areas. And then there are lots of folks that don't want to listen to their elected leaders for, whether they agree with your politics or, they just don't like you or whatever. And so being able to have this platform and be able to give people the right information, whether they personally like me or not, whether they agree with me or not, but not being driven by the data and not politics.
Tameka, I want to ask you one more question before we have to wrap. As you know, if you said you watch this show, we're all about joy here. So I want to know, what is the thing that is bringing you the most joy? And what is kind of your message here for the people of Columbia that are watching? So many people see you as such a force to be reckoned with here in Columbia and look up to you.
Wow. I'd say what's giving me the most joy is really that time, because, and I know a time will come where things will get busy again and hustle and bustle, and I'll be out there doing lots of stuff. But being able to use this time, but also stay connected. So staying connected with my family, like I mentioned, we've been cooking, we have done movie nights, we have watched every single Marvel movie. I'd never seen them except for Black Panther before this thing, but I've seen every Marvel movie now. So we've done that, but I've also been able to stay connected with my constituents, mainly the elderly folks. I have been getting on the phone, and nowadays, people don't pick up the phone and call people anymore. But I've been picking up the phone and calling folks, and just being able to actually talk to people and them saying, thank you for what you're doing. So that's what's been giving me joy, because I know it's tough. This is tough for all of us. This is unprecedented, but I think the understanding how we as a community have been able to stay connected and been able to look out for our neighbors has been the thing that has brought me the greatest joy.
Well, as her shirt says, wife, mom, boss, Tameika Isaac Devine, thank you so much for sharing some time with us this morning. I think the biggest takeaways: give yourself some grace, have some patience, and those conversations with the kids. I hope a lot of parents will really take that in this morning, especially with so many of them spending more time online, to be able to be careful about those connections that you're making, and to reach out and talk to people is so much better than a text. Tameika Isaac Devine, thanks so much. Stay healthy, stay well. We appreciate you joining us on WIS today.
Thank you, ladies. Stay well.
All right, everybody. You're very welcome. When we